Could it be? But me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to this Louie T Network exclusive bombshell trade in the National Football League as the Seattle Seahawks pulled the trigger on acquiring all-pro safety Jamal Adams from the New York Jets. Details are still coming out about the trade, but right now it seems like the Jets will receive 2 first-round picks in addition to a third-round selection, and the Seahawks will receive Jamal Adams and a 4th-round selection. This is a massive deal for both parties involved. To me, I don't need to wait to see who won this trade. I can tell you already who has won this trade. It's the Seattle Seahawks, and I'll explain why here in a second. But Jamal Adams wanted out of New York. It's no secret. And in recent days, just the last 48 hours, he's had things to say about the owner, Woody Johnson, and also head coach Adam Gase. I've already told you, I don't think Adam Gase is a good head coach. He's not a great leader of men. He should not be in a position of power leading a franchise. But that's another story for another day. I've already told you guys that a million times. But Jamal Adams pretty much came out and said the exact same thing. And so he was begging for them to get rid of him. He was doing everything in his power to make sure that they traded him and that he would no longer be a member of the New York Jets. Mission accomplished for him. And look, he had a list. And normally when you make a list of places you want to go, the team that has your rights tries to do everything in their power to not go and trade you to one of those teams on your list. But when the deal is this sweet, hard to pass it up if you're the Jets. Now that list of teams also happen to be teams that were very good last year and probably are going to continue to be very good football teams. Look, Jamal Adams wants to play for a winner. Having been a part of an organization that has been trash since he's gotten into the league, he wants to play for a team that's playing for something meaningful in December into January and possibly beyond. So he wasn't looking to go to another team looking to rebuild their franchise. So this is a perfect move for him going to Seattle and for the Seahawks. And we'll talk about what this deal means for the Jets here in a second. But I want to focus on the team who I feel like won the trade, and that's the Seattle Seahawks. So for the Seahawks, the reason this is a monumental deal for them is because the defense hasn't been the same since the Legion of Boom vacated. Now, you could argue who was the most important and who was the most impactful part of the Legion of Boom. Some would say Dick Sherman. Others would say it was, Cam Chancellor. But if you're asking me, it was Earl Thomas. He was the glue that held everything together. He was the chess piece that you could move around and do a lot of different things with. And once you took him out of the equation, that defense, to me, fell off the table because they had interchangeable parts at cornerback. Even though Dick Sherman was a huge part of what they did, they would always interchange that other cornerback position piece. And the safety position was locked down with 2 all-pro type safeties, guys that really fit the description of their particular positions, and Cam Chancellor being a strong safety, physical presence, and then Earl Thomas, your chess piece that you could move around. You could blitz him. You could play him underneath zone coverage. You could drop him over the slot. You could play man-to-man, and he could also be your single high free safety. We know that the Seattle Seahawks made a living playing cover 3. They've had to adapt their system to the players that they have now, but when they were at their prime, they just played strictly cover 3 and said, beat us. And it was hard because they played it better than anybody else. And the reason they could play it as well as they did really was the presence of Earl Thomas. And his range and his ability to do so many different things allowed them some flexibility defensively that they just haven't had since he has departed. And really, since he's started to be a little bit on the incline, he's not the same Earl Thomas that he was 3 years ago. So this is a way to get back to what they once were in the secondary. And look, when we talk safeties in this league, a lot of times we don't give the safety position as much respect as some of the other positions defensively, especially corner and edge rusher, and team, and you can fall in love with the middle linebacker position too. We talk about, defense starts up the middle, so safety, backer, and on the defensive line in the interior specifically. But you hear people talk about how everything defensively starts up the middle. But the safety position, people treat the safety position, I feel like the running back position on the offensive side. Hey, we can find one of those. So we saw that happen this year with some really good safeties. None of them were picked in the first round. The safety position didn't begin to come off the board until the second round, and I thought there were some really good safeties. Now, if there is an elite safety, much like if there's an elite running back, they'll go in the first round. I thought that there were some misses this year on some safeties, one in particular that I thought should have gone in the first round, but that's nor here nor there. This is one of those guys that when you ask around league circles, is there a safety in the league that's a game changer, a guy that you would snatch up right away? And when you start running off the list of top 10 players, irregardless of position, Jamal Adams is a guy who comes up in that discussion, the only safety that's even remotely close when you start having that discussion. And he's a difference maker at the safety position. And not only is he a safety that gets it done on the field, he's a leader and an alpha off the field. So there's a lot that comes with the Jamal Adams package that you're getting here if you're Seattle. And trust me, the Seahawks, they're no dummies. They know exactly what they were doing here. And let me also add this in. If there were one team in the league that you said to yourself, hey, they don't need any first round picks. Matter of fact, they don't know what to do with first round picks. So if they don't have one for the next 2 years, they'd be just fine. Who would you say? We've had this discussion when it comes to Seattle a million times. They don't know what to do with first round picks. Generally, they just give them away. They trade them away because they don't know what to do. And when they finally have to pull the trigger on a first round pick, they usually botch it and butcher it 6 ways to Sunday. So this is a team that doesn't do well in the first round. So why not go ahead, get something that you know. All right, you know what this commodity is. This is a clear package here. You can see inside and know exactly what you're getting. An all-pro safety that can do anything you ask him on the football field versus the crapshoot that is the Seattle Seahawks rolling the dice in the first round, which has not gone well for them when they don't trade out of the first round. So, or at least trade back in the first round. So, to me, this makes the most sense of any team that could have went after Jamal Adams because the Seahawks don't do well in the first round. And they're always picking in the back end of the first round anyway. So you're getting a top 5 talent in terms of if you were making a draft selection, and this guy is going into the prime of his career. He's still got at least 7 good to great years left in him. So you're getting the best of Jamal Adams if you're the Seattle Seahawks. Obviously, that is pending a long-term deal being reached. Just like I said with the Rams and Jalen Ramsey, you don't give up multiple first-round picks to then let a guy walk away. That's not how this thing works. So he's not going anywhere. They're going to strike a long-term deal with Jamal Adams and lock him up. And I'll take it a step further. When you're talking Seattle, I don't know if there's a better team in the league at teaching, at getting guys in the later rounds, at getting undrafted guys to maximize their potential in this league. So when you start talking about a team that might be pressed up against the cap potentially, they're going to be fine because they do a great job of getting the most out of guys in the 5th and 6th and 7th round. And that's why the Seahawks have always went with the model of give me more, okay? Quantity over quality has always been the Seahawks approach. Yeah, they would love to have a first-rate, top-flight first-round pick or second-round pick, but they could care less. They'll take 3 fifth-round picks, 2 6s, and 2 7s, and hit on 4 of those guys at the back end of a draft and feel just as good as a team that hit on their first, second, and third round pick. That's what the Seahawks do. They'll take 3 undrafted guys, give them an opportunity, coach the hell out of them. 2 years later, they're getting contracts elsewhere with another organization. So this is a team that doesn't have to have a first round pick is essentially what I'm telling you. So they don't feel the sting like some other teams around the league would not having a first. Like the Rams, they've been hurt the last 3 years, 4 years, not having a first round pick. That catches up with you eventually if you don't do it on the back end. You've got to make up for that loss somewhere. The Seahawks do it every year. Okay, they miss on first rounders all the time. They trade out of the first round all the time. They are accustomed to operating as if their first round pick doesn't exist, because a lot of times it doesn't. Or those guys don't perform at the level that you expect from a first rounder. And they usually make that up somewhere in the third or the fourth or the fifth or the sixth or the seventh or undrafted. They find a way. So to me, this deal makes a ton of sense from the perspective of the Seattle Seahawks. It's a win-win for them, because the first rounders, they're not going to feel that. Those are going to be between 25 and 32 anyway, because they're going to be a good team. They're going to make the postseason. So that if Russell Wilson's healthy, and there's nothing that it suggests that he won't, because he's been healthy pretty much his entire career. If Russell Wilson's healthy, they're going to make the playoffs. Okay. And not only are they going to make the playoffs, more likely than not, they're going to win at least one game. They're going to do some damage while they're there. So that pick's going to be back end of the first round. So Seattle's like, you can have these. We don't worry about first round picks. We don't know what to do with them anyway. So we're good. We'll take Jamal Adams. And you know what? We'll actually probably do a better job of making use of that fourth round pick that we'll get in exchange for him as well. So I think they feel like they came out out of this trade on top and as legit winners. And I have to agree with that sentiment. And you look at it from the Jets standpoint, you're getting 2 first round picks. You're also getting a third rounder as well. And if you're the Jets, you're rebuilding this thing. I told you, until they find the right man to run the show, Adam Gase is not that. Until they find the right man, I don't think that the Jets can actually progress. I think they're always going to be stuck in the mud, because you got to have the right man leading the troops. And Adam Gase isn't that. But if you're talking about compiling talent, you're going to have, and I actually liked what they did in the draft this year, the first with their new GM. And so I think if you're talking about just stockpiling more talent for a guy that was disgruntled and didn't want to be there, because these are the types of players, Jamal Adams, these are the kind of guys that you look at as building blocks. These are the guys that are cornerstones of your franchise. You ultimately don't want to trade these kind of players. You're looking to compile these types of players. These are the guys that are the foundation from which you build an organization that wants to win consistently. But he didn't want to be there. And there's nothing worse than having a player that doesn't want to be there. And Jamal Adams, as you can see, had no problems causing trouble if they weren't going to move him. So if you're the Jets and Joe Douglas and company, you do what you have to do in these types of situations, and that's extract the most value you can out of a big-time commodity. Don't do what the Texans did. That's what not to do. They didn't extract enough value out of Nuke Hopkins. If you're going to trade someone of that kind of caliber and that kind of skill, you make sure you get at least 2 first-round picks. That's what the Giants did for Odell Beckham Jr. Shame on you if you step to the old dirty Beckham. That's what the Giants did with him. That's what the Vikings did with Stephon Diggs. That's what you did here. That's what you're supposed to do. So on the Jets end, bravo. You did what you were supposed to do. Extract as much value out of this particular commodity, in this case, Jamal Adams, as you can. And that's 2 first rounders and a third. Now, again, these are going to be back end of the first round picks. But guess what? Who cares? You're going to have your first round pick, and now Seattle's for the next 2 seasons, for the next 2 drafts. So you're going to have 2 first round picks. So if you need to maneuver around the board, you can. And if you just stand pat and make your 2 selections, you're going to most likely get really good football players, 2 of them each of the next 2 years in the first round. And those will be 5-year contracts. So guys are going to be able to not have to extend a long-term deal to for at least 4 years, potentially 5. And you're hoping to get high-level football players to help you speed up the process of becoming competitive in what all of a sudden could be a much more viable AFC East division with Tom Brady exiting stage left out of New England. So when you look around at the landscape of the division, you say to yourself, if Sam Darnold can stay healthy and Adam Gase can be a quarterback whisperer, which is what you hired him to essentially be, and take Sam Darnold to the next level, and you start building this thing the right way, and some of these draft picks that you've acquired over the last couple of years, and some of these players that you've taken, and all of a sudden you start seeing some of the fruits of your labor, and now you're going to have more assets to play with. If all of a sudden these things start to fall into place, the Jets could be a good football team sooner rather than later. This is definitely going to help speed up that process and really give you a chance to be in a division that, look, I don't think you're going to be competitive necessarily this season, but why not next year? 2 first-rounders coming in. And all of a sudden Sam Darnold's that much more comfortable under Adam Gase, if he in fact is still there. Who's to say what happens? So if you're the Jets, you did what you had to do. You don't want to trade a player the caliber of a Jamal Adams, but when you're backed into a corner, you do what you got to do. And I felt like you got good compensation for him. Again, back into the first rounders. You're not going to get the Seahawks aren't going to slip up and you get the 12th pick in the draft, okay? That you're not getting the 15th pick in the draft. This is going to be 25 or 27 or 29 or hell, even 32, but at the end of the day, it's still a first round pick, and maybe you're able to take that pick, trade back, flip it, and turn it into 3 more selections. Whatever the case may be, you've got more ammunition the next 2 seasons. So if you're the Jets, you feel good about that. But to me, the winner of this deal, and still undefeated, are the Seattle Seahawks. They seem to get this right when they do this just about every time. When they traded for Jadeveon Clowney, they raped the Houston Texans. Now they're trading for Jamal Adams. Yeah, it's a steep price to pay, but when you're the Seattle Seahawks and the first round picks that you've had in the past haven't mattered, to me, this makes the most sense. So tell me what you guys think. Leave it down in the comment section. I can't wait to read your comments and reactions to this move. To me, the Seattle Seahawks absolutely win this thing hands down because of their past history with first round picks, and also the fact that they're going to get a chance to reinsert Earl Thomas 2.0 into their defense. It just makes a ton of sense. They've got Russell Wilson locked up for the foreseeable future. They've got a window that's about this big, and now you add another guy in his prime of his career that's going to help you potentially get over the top yet again. This move just makes too much sense for the Seattle Seahawks. And if you're the Jets, you got what you needed to get out of this commodity, and so you feel good about what you did on your end. Leave it down in the comment section along with a like and a subscription. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Lots more of this in store for you. We're revamping everything, coming at you guys hard in the upcoming season. So make sure that you're a part of the Louie T Network as we continue to change the game here on Louie T Network on YouTube. So make sure that you're a part of that. And also, if you want to donate, you can do that via Cash App, Louie T Network on Cash App. You can also donate via Patreon, become a patron on Patreon, Louie T Network there as well. All of these are down in the description of this video, so check that out. There's also PayPal, Louie T Network. Again, on any platform, type in Louie T Network. Make sure you're checking out the podcast. That's coming at you guys live soon as well, Louie T Network podcast. So make sure that you are locked in because, again, we're changing the game over here. I am your man, Louie T. Make sure that you guys stay tuned. And, oh, yeah, by the way, if it's not your man T, it's not, I repeat, not the best NFL coverage. It could be. I do have a super chat, so I do want to get to that before we get out of here. Arlene Adkins, my man, Double A, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Double A writes, how are they going to afford him? Skull. Again, you can create space, and the Seahawks aren't dummies. They know what they're doing, and they'll have enough cap space to get a deal done with Jamal Adams. All right, the cap is probably now. It's interesting because what is this season going to do to the cap number next season? Every year we've seen steady growth from the cap. Does the cap actually stay static or does it decrease next year because of the lack of ticket sales because of COVID this year? How is the cap affected? That also is going to play into it. But trust me, if the Seahawks have to cut ties with several players to free up enough space to keep Jamal Adams, they're going to do it. Again, just as I mentioned with the Rams don't have a ton of cap space, but guess what the Rams are going to do? They're going to re-sign Jalen Ramsey. I bet you any amount of money. All right, the Cowboys, they traded a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. They weren't going to allow him to leave in free agency. He stays with the Dallas Cowboys. When you make these types of moves, when you give up this type of draft capital for a player, it's not to let him leave 1 year later. Trust me, the Seahawks will create enough cap space to get a long-term deal done with Jamal Adams. I'll bet you any amount of money. So I don't know how they're going to do it, but they're going to do it. All right. I don't know their cap situation. I'm not very familiar with it. Trust me, they'll fit him into their long-term future and into their cap. I assure you of that. I think I got one more super chat. I got another one from CIZ. Thank you for the super chat, CIZ. Greatly appreciate you, Sis. Where are my football fans at? Hopefully they're here on the Louie T Network, but I know they're everywhere. I appreciate the super chat, Sis. Great looking out, and I really appreciate that. Got another super chat here from my man Vincent Cole, a Seattle Seahawks fan, so I really want to hear what he has to say. My man Vincent Cole writes, "Go Seahawks. Do you think Adams is much more impactful than Clowney?" I think he can be. Now, here's the thing. When the Seahawks were at their best, they had the NASCAR package where they could put 4 guys on the field that could get after you, and they were hard to deal with, and so they would speed up the timetable of that quarterback in the pocket and force him to have to make a quicker decision than maybe he wanted to, and that's when a guy like Earl Thomas would be able to then feast. I don't see that guy right now in Seattle. I don't see that guy that can get off the edge and really create havoc. That was the problem last year. That was the reason Seattle was, to me, had a cap and a ceiling on how good they could be, is because they couldn't get enough pass rush. Clowney was really it for you last season. He's no longer there. There's a chance he could be back. We'll see how that works out. But I think Adams, in the long term, could definitely be impactful. I don't know if he'll be more impactful than Clowney. I think if you were able to package up Jamal Adams with another guy up front, just one, all you need is one guy that can consistently impact the passer. And then I would say, yes, he would be more impactful than Clowney by himself. But Clowney, anytime you can get a guy that can impact the quarterback, to me, I rate them higher than a safety. But Jamal Adams is so good because he can get to the quarterback himself. The man had 6 sacks last season. So he's a weapon on the football field. Wherever you decide to deploy him, he is a guy that can be a game changer wherever you put him. So I do think he can come in and have an impact on this football team. But you need a pass rusher desperately to step up. I did not like the pick of the TCU product 2 years ago in the draft. We'll see if he steps up, though. I'm not going to label him a bust or anything like that. But I want to see someone step up and say, okay, I'll be that guy that can get pressure on the quarterback. But right now, I don't know if Jamal Adams by himself exponentially makes this defense better. I can tell you this much. Jamal Adams makes that secondary exponentially better. Your corners are going to be better because of the presence of Jamal Adams. Now you need to be able to get pressure on the quarterback. But I can tell you this much. If the Seahawks defensively were a 5 last season, they're now a 6.5, 7 with the acquisition of a Jamal Adams. You take Adams and you add a decent, it doesn't even have to be a all-world pass rusher. You add a decent pass rusher, a guy that can get you consistently 8.5 to 10 sacks, and now your defense is an 8.5 with the Jamal Adams in your secondary. So that's the kind of impact that this guy brings to the table. Thank you for the super chat, Vincent Coe. Got another super chat here from Barrett Downing. Thank you for the super chat, BD. As always, my man Barrett writes, Seems like the rich get richer. That's what happens when you're a good football team. It's like the LeBron James effect. People want to play with LeBron. Why? Because they know they're going to win. Are they going to win the championship? I don't know. They don't know, but they know they're going to have a shot because LeBron doesn't play for scrub teams. They're going to be good. Same thing in the NFL. Good players want to play on good teams. Nobody wants to lose every single year. So it's hard for the non-rich teams, or the poor teams, or the middle-class teams to come up. Why? Because if I have a chance to go to a team that can win, that's where I'm going to ultimately want to go. I want a chance to win. Yeah, I want to get paid, and sometimes that supersedes winning for some of these players, and I don't blame them. But if you ultimately are looking to have a combination of the two, you want to get paid and you want to have a chance to win, you're not going to go to Detroit. You know what I mean? If you're looking to get paid, you go to Detroit. If you're looking to win, you're not going to Detroit. You're not going to Cleveland. You're not going to Washington. You're not looking to go to one of those teams. You're looking to go to Kansas City. You're looking to go to Baltimore. You're looking to go to Seattle. That's why his list looked the way that it looked. Dallas, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Kansas City, Seattle. These were teams on his list. Why? Because those teams are in the playoffs generally year after year after year, and you've got a shot to win something big. And so the rich do seem to get richer, but it's because they're good. You add your name to the list of good teams, and players will want to come. So to me, it's not a chicken or egg type of situation. Which one came first? It's easy in this league. You win, and good players will follow. Now, you could say it's chicken or the egg because you could say, well, you get the good players and then you win, and then more good players want to come. But if you can find a way to win, good players will come. So that's why the rich seem to always get richer in the NFL. And I'm not mad at them. I ain't glad at them, but I ain't mad at them. Thank you for the super chat, Barrett Downing. Got another one from Vincent Coe. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Vincent Coe says, another one just to appreciate your content, Lou. Thank you so much, Vincent Coe. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you so much for the super chat. Sonny Rawson, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, Sonny. Sonny writes, seems like they'll only be as good as their pass rush. I agree, Lou. Blessed to get Chase Young as a football team fan. Football team fan. That sounded funny. But I am too. And that's, to me, where it begins and where it ends defensively is you got to be able to affect the passer. If you can do that, everything that you do building off of that is, to me, found money. But you got to first be able to get to the quarterback. But you want substance behind that pass rusher or two, because as we saw in Tampa last year, Shaq Barrett had, damn near 20 sacks, but the secondary was so young, a bunch of rookies and young guys. It was the blind leading the blind. They were getting torched in the secondary, despite Shaq Barrett going nuts. They were giving up 30 and 37 and 41 because the secondary wasn't any good. You're not going to have to worry about that in Seattle. The secondary is going to be just fine. Now, you got to find a way to get to the quarterback. So while Jamal Adams is going to have an impact, a big-time impact, the Seahawks need to find a way to get pressure on the quarterback. That's going to have to be their priority coming up soon. If not in the offseason next year in terms of free agency, definitely in the draft. They've got to find a way to address their inability to get to the quarterback. So that's why they traded for Clowney last year, because they understood they lost Frank Clark in free agency, or they traded Frank Clark away. They knew they were going to have to find a way to get to the quarterback. That's why they went and got Jadeveon Clowney. Clowney's no longer there. There's a void on that defense. They need someone to fill it. And whether that's in-house or they have to go outside of the organization to find it, they're going to have to do something at some point. Anyhow, let's see. Got no more super chats. I'll just pull a couple of these comments real quick and we'll get out of here. Storm says, I don't know, man. 2 first rounders is cost effective. DB is a pretty steep price for a safety. Says Adams is elite, but 2 first rounds for a safety seems wild. Gave up more than the Bears for Mac too. I've already laid out why I feel like it's not a problem, why I think the Seahawks have a problem with them giving this up, to be honest with you. Mr. TNA 2005 says, so Lou, the Seahawks were my number one team from the NFC before this deal, and the one defeating Kansas City in the Super Bowl, having home field advantage in the NFC. Well, this definitely helps that case. If you already had them as the best, this only strengthens their hold on your position with this football team heading into the 2020 season. Atlas says, people keep saying how the Jets won this trade, but I think it's the opposite. Jets really chose Gase over Adams, and they're going to continue to be dumpster fire regardless of the picks. I've already kind of laid out how I feel, so I agree with you, Atlas, that the Seahawks won this trade, not actually the Jets. Reese says, Lou, isn't it pretty sad that nowadays all you have to do is piss and moan to get traded? I mean, it is what it is. It's, in sports, you don't get to pick your team. So it's rough because you could pretty much inherit a bad football team. You just walk in, they draft you, and it's a mess. And you don't have any say-so over the deal. And so, in his particular case, he really just wanted to be paid. He didn't want to leave initially. It got toxic because they didn't want to pay him. And so things kind of just matriculated and one thing led to another. And next thing you know, the situation just got out of hand. It got away from them and, something had to be done. But you're right. That's been the new trend. You don't want to be somewhere. You force your way out. And, unfortunately, that's how it is in the NFL. You do what you got to do. I've always said I'm on the side of the players. So it is what it is. Prince Neo 22 says, Alex Smith's not starting. And Mr. TNA 2005 says, Jets fans need to pray that their team misses the playoffs and they get rid of Gase. They have a great GM, but Gase will hold them back. I tend to agree with that sentiment. I don't know if they have a great GM, but I like what I saw from Joe Douglas in his first draft as Jets GM. Now I want to see how he continues to build this team. I want to see what his roster building looks like. But I can tell you this much. Adam Gase is not the right man for the job, but I've already stated that numerous times, so I don't need to continue to repeat myself. But in any event, I thank you guys for joining me here on this program. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to Louie T Network if you haven't already done so. And I will check you guys out later. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Most importantly, stay safe out there and take care of yourselves. And we will reconvene at a later date and time. You guys have a good one.